I hear you. I hear you all the way. I feel the same way. Okay, so yesterday we discussed a couple of things. First of all, the Gemara wanted to know if Shimshon actually was a Kabbalist Naziris. So the Gemara says, in fact, it was not a Kabbalist Naziris. And the way we know that Shimshon was Metamal Meisim is a Divrei Kabbalah. It's Gemara Gemirah. We have a Kabbalah that, in fact, when he took off their clothing, they were already dead. Chaim Fear asked me a question. Maybe the Olam has an answer. In one of the challenges that Shimshon had, he had to deliver a whole bunch of arlois of the Goyim. There's no way he took those arlois while they were alive. So why didn't the Gemara bring a raya from those psukim that he touched Mason? But that's what happened. I remember that there's such a story in the Parsha of Shimshon where he delivered a whole bunch of arlos to someone. It was a riddle, a challenge. I remember what it was. I don't remember who he delivered to it, but at the end of the day, he would have a difficult time generating those arlos without dealing with dead bodies. Okay. Well, basically, what it was is whoever he was giving it to, he was giving them a whole bunch of tips. They did him a favor, so he gave them a tip. Okay. That's right. Press follow me under the video for more useful tips. Okay. Zok the Gemara. So then the Gemara wanted to know how we know that a Nazir Olam. How do we know that a Nazir Olam exists? And we proved that Avshalom seemed to have been in Nazir Olam because he made a neder, and the only neder that he would advertise and be proud of would be Naziris. And the Gemara also wanted to know, how do you know what the frequency of a Nazir Olam's ability to cut his hair is? So the Gemara about 3 shitas, either once in 12 months, which we proved through a Gzeir Shava of Yomim from Bate Arichaima, or it was Reb Nairoyu who said once every 3 months, which we learned from Yiftach was rejected because we weren't sure about the schedule. We learned it from Kaihanim. Remember, Toshis asks, why would you go from Kaihanim? If Kaihanim you only learn out of a Nazir Stam. So Toshis said is because you cannot learn a temporary Kedusha to a permanent Kedusha. So you cannot learn a Nazir Olam from a Nazir Stam. But a Kohen is a permanent Kedusha. So you could learn from Kohen to Nazir Olam. And then there was the Shita of Yosy who held that they were Megaleach once a week. So why is that different than anybody else? It's because they couldn't take a haircut on the Erev Yom Tov if there was a Yom Tov in the week, or B is they would have to take their haircut right before Shabbos. They wouldn't be able to take it Friday morning. And then we talked about the 40 years. So the Gemara tells us that the Torah is sort of drawing our attention to a connection between Klal Yisrael being moired by asking for a melech versus Avshalom, who was moired against the malchus that we picked. And I think Avigdor mentioned that because David asked, there's a mitzvah to have a melech. So why was that an avla? So I think Avigdor said this because they asked for it, that it should be that we should be like any of the nations of the world. That was the avla. Okay. Victor, it was you yesterday, right? I think that's what you said.
It wasn't me. It was somebody in the room.
Oh, somebody in the room? Okay. Maybe I see you now, so I thought it was you. Okay. Zok the Heilige Gemara. The next thing the Gemara wants to know is, how do you know Stam Nazir is Lam Joim? In fact, the Gemara brought a machloikis between Rav Masna, who's medayik from the gematria of Yiyah, that is 30 days, versus Bar Pada, who says it 29 days, because it mentions the word Nazir or a similar word 29 times in the Parsha of Nazirs. And then the Gemara started asking Shilas back and forth to prove that it was either 30 days or 29 days. And we are up to the kasha that the Gemara is about to ask, the third line from the bottom on Daf Hey Amar Aleph. Tanan. We learned in the Mishnah. Now this is actually, all this is a Mishnah on Daf Tav Zayin. There's a long Mishnah, and the Gemara is going through the Mishnah case by case, bringing a raya from it. Tanan we learned, Misha Nazar Shtei Naziris. Someone who is makabel upon himself 2 Naziris, and as we learned, that nets 2 consecutive Naziris. Magaleich HaRishayna Yom Shloshim Ve'echad. On day 31, he's Megaleich the first. So this jumps right out at us that this is clearly a raya to Rab Masna, who holds the Nazir as 30 days, and therefore the Giluch should be on day 31. It will be shver on Bar Pada. Now, just like the Gemara asked this kasha before, except not from this exact case. We had another case where it said the Giluch is on day 31. So the most positive pshat in the Gemara is, even though the Gemara has already asked this kasha on Bar Pada and has already answered it, that Bar Pada holds that Midrabanan, you even by Stam Naziris, which technically is only 29 days, you should wait 30 full days. The reason is because very often people say that I should be on Nazir for 30 days. In other words, someone specifies 30 days. When you specify 30 days, that's no longer a Stam Naziris. So then it for sure is 30 days, and there you'd have to take your haircut on day 31. Thank you very much, Mati. There you'd have to take your haircut on day 31. So therefore they were geyser that all Naziris, even Stam Naziris, you should take your haircut on day 31. But the derech of the Gemara to ask the same kasha as before and to answer it again. And at the end of the day, there is a tzas chidish we're going to see that exists both according to Rav Masna in this second case, as well as according to Rav Pada in the second case, Bar Pada in the second case. So once again, and the second one is Liyom Shishim Ve'echad, day 61. So in each Naziris, he's keeping a full 30 days. Correct the Gemara. Bishlamar Rav Masna, according to Rav Masna, who says the Naziris is a full 30 days, Nicha, it makes perfect sense. Bar Pada, but according to Bar Pada, Kasha, because once again it says the Nazir is 30 days. Bar Pada, once again Bar Pada answered the question in the same fashion. Before you write me off, Ema Seifa, let's look at the second half of this case. The im gilach esarishani liam shloishim avada lechatchila, the giluch should have been on day 31. But if you wrongfully did the giluch on day 30, it will work. And then migalech esashni liam shishim. Then you could cut the second one on yom shishim. So let's think about this. If you was gilach esarishani liam shloishim, that's perfectly allowed, because although the chatchila we want him to wait to day 31 because of often people are makabel naziris for 30 days. Technically, this was a stam naziris, and it was only 29 days. So there would have been no problem with the Eved if he in fact made giluach on day 30. Now let's think. Even though he made giluach on day 30, for the second naziris, he should still keep a full 30 days and take a haircut on day 31. Just like with the first naziris is what you're supposed to look at chila. So if you start counting from day 30 until day 60, you're going to actually, day 60 will be day 31 if day 30 is day 1. So it works out perfectly. The first Naziris, the Eved, took the haircut before he was supposed to on day 30. But of course it works because Midai Raisa and Naziris is only 29 days. And the second Naziris, what he should do is take his haircut on day 60. So that works out perfectly according to Bar Pada. But how could it possibly work according to Rav Masna? How could the giluach of the first one on day 30 work? At the end of the day, the sefer is in fact a raya to Bar Pada, and Reisha is, let's look at the Lashon Habach. Reisha Naseh ka'omer shleimim. It's like he said shleimim, but we learned already yesterday that when you're learning in Bar Pada shleimim, that's lav davka. It's only because that's what we needed to say in Rav Masna. So the Gemara is sticking to a parallel expression. But Rav Masna Kasha Sefer. We have a problem according to Rav Masna, who holds that you have to have a full 30 days of Naziris. And the Giluch should only be there on day 31. How is it that the Mishnah says, it should be good? Zok the Gemara, Amalach Rav Masna, Kedekatani Sefer, like it says in the Sefer, Yom Shloishim, Oila Lakan, Ulakan. The 30th day where he wrongfully took a haircut too early, because it should have been on day 31, the Giluch is good because of what Rav Masna told us earlier, that he holds of Mitzvah Yom Kippur. So since he already kept part of the 30th day with Naziris, he's able to make his Giluch even during the 30th day. And then in the 30th day, he can already start counting the next cycle of Naziris. So you have a Mitzvah Yom Kippur on steroids. Because not only do we say Mitzvah Yom Kippur is enough to conclude the original Naziris, that very same day, he can already start counting for the next Naziris. So are you telling me that your Chiddush of Mitzvah Yom Kippur? Didn't we already express this Chiddush in the Reisha? When the Reisha of the Mishnah, when the earlier case of the Mishnah says that with the Evid, if you made Giluach and Yom Shloshim would be good enough? So tomorrow, yes, but this isn't Mitzvah Yom Kippur plain. This is Mitzvah Yom Kippur on steroids. Mao the Tema Hanin Mili Lingin Chad and Naziris. Yeah, the half a day would be good for Naziris, but to split it that it should count as two separate Naziris, that's a bigger chiddush. Aval Shtei Naziris Loi Kamash V'lon, that even works for two Naziris. And Tosfos brings out the pshat and why it's a bigger chiddush to have two Naziris in one day. So I'm going to go into Tosfos just to the left, a couple of lines up, where they have the square brackets. I would have thought, when do you say Mitzvah Yom Kippur? That's if half the day you're keeping Naziris and half not. Tosfos here is talking according to Bar Pada, there's also such a chiddush. When do you say Mitzvah Yom Kippur and you can count half a day as Naziris? Because everybody agrees that if you're Makabel Naziris in the middle of the day, everybody holds their Mitzvah Yom Kippur. Because the first day you're only keeping Naziris for half a day. But that's only if you weren't also Naziris at the beginning of the day. So when you start fearing Zich with Naziris, it's clear that you're starting to do Naziris. Aval Hacha, the Nog Nazirus at Chatzi Hayoim. He was practicing Naziris even before he started the second Naziris. So therefore, it's not obvious to everyone that this Naziris is a new Naziris. Ema lo yala loy. Maybe you would suggest that the Naziris does not count as a new Naziris. The any nikah Nazirusai kamash v'lan dafilu hachi oila loy lekanu lekan. So this is a chiddush sign by Pada, sign Rav Masna that it's oila lekanu lekan. I believe no, that's I'm sorry, that's the next kasha. Fact Gemara Nacha kasha. So we've just done another bullet. Zok the Gemara Tanan we learned. Im Gilach Yom Shishim Chaser Echad. What if the second Naziris he terminated on day 59? Yotza, you would be Yotza. Shiyam Shloishim Oilaloi Minaminyan. Because you can count day 30 as both day 30 of the first Naziris and as day 1 of the second Naziris. So let's think about this. If the original Giluch was on day 30, the Mishnah earlier said, of course, it would work because ultimately, even according to Rav Masna, it would work. Now, if you start counting day 30 as day 1, then day 59 will be day 60, or it will be day 30 of the second Naziris. So once again, you have two sets of 30 according to Rav Masna, but that only works because Sheyom Shloshim Oiloi Minaminim. Right? So it only works that day 59 should be considered day 30. Zok the Mishnah. The Mishnah gives a reasoning for it because day 30 counts. So what does it mean day 30 counts? The Pasha says day 30 counts as the last day of the first Naziris, but it's also counting as the first day of the second Naziris. So then each Naziris was a full set of 30 days. Does that jive? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So Frank the Gemara, Rav Masna Licha. According to Rav Masna, this makes perfect sense. Now, Lebar Pada, Lomali, why do I need that day 30 should act as both days? Day 30 only has to act for the first day, but the second day, 29 days is enough. So let's see how the Ran describes the Shaila. Ela Lebar Pada, Lomali, Ha'amrina on Meshech Nazir is Chav Tes Yom. If Nazir is only 29 days, V'lomala Latana Laharich. Why did the Tana have to say that the reason why if you terminated the second Nazir on day 59, it's because it's also 30 days, because day 30 was number one. Havadai, according to the Shita Bar Pada, Havadai kol taglachas hoysem b'yom shloshim. The taglachas for each set was on day 30. Upshita the yata b'di'evid, and it's pashida to yata b'di'evid. Even the Leibain and Midaraisa Elachov Tes Yoim, since you only need 29 days. So why do we need the mission to say that Yom Shloshim is Oila Lakanu Lakan? It doesn't have to be Oila Lakanu Lakan, because according to Barpada, B'di'evet 29 days is enough for a Naziris. And for the Gemara, I'm sorry. Why it doesn't have to be oil lakan. Even if it's only oiler, even if day 30 is only the oiler for the second, it's good enough. Or even if it's only for the first, it's enough. I'm sorry, even if it's only oiler for the second, it's enough. It doesn't. The day 30 does not have to be oiler lakan. It only has to be oiler for the second Naziris. We don't need it to be oiler for the first Naziris, because the first Naziris had full 29 days. Correct. So that day 30 does not have to work as part of the Naziris of the first. It only has to work as part of the Naziris of the second. Because I need it for 29 days. I need it for the 29 days. But if I don't need it for the 29 days of the first set, because I have it for 29 days. So Emfet Barpada, El Barpada, Lomali, Ha'amar Shloshim Chosar Echot, Amalach, Ananami Hachisampi. Exactly. I learned different shot in the Mishnah that Shloshim Oila Loy Min Aminyan. It doesn't mean it works for both days. It doesn't say it works for both days. It just says Oila Min Aminyan. It means it counts for the second, not for the first. Let's see the right hand side. Amar Lach Bar Pada Anon Nami Hasamchi. That's I actually use the Mishnah as my source. That's where I know 29 from. This Mishnah precisely is telling me that Nazir is only 29. Clever Mikana Nimedaktik. The Meshech Nazir is Choftas Yoy. Why? The Katani Diyam Shloshim Oila Min Aminyan. It says that day 30 counts as the minion of the second Naziris. The Mashma the Oila Leminyan Achra. It's Mashma that you could use day 30 as day number one for the second set of Naziris. Ella the Oila Leminyan Rishon, but it doesn't count as the first Naziris. The first Naziris was 29 days. Kniskaleel. The Kivin the Tana, Mekel by Kolkach, Lahachshiv Yoim, Lakanu Lakat. From the fact that the Mishnah says that day 30 works to be part of the second Naziris, that's exactly where Bar Pada saw in the Mishnah that the Naziris is only 29 days. That's actually his whole Chiddush. Let me see, he says a little bit more clearly. Aha Samchi, the Gamrinon Lahamas Nisin. I learned it from this Mishnah. The Chazina Bey, the Tani, Shem Gilas, Yom Shishim, Chaser Achas Yotza. From there I see Shem Shloshim, Oilam Naminim. Clearly, day 30 was day one of the second set of Naziris. The Neschoyis changed the Gersa. Veloy Mishum the betchila ki gilech b'yom shloshim oiloi lekanu lekan. It's not because of what we learned in Reb Masna that day 30 is both the end, the last day of the first Naziris and the first day of the second Naziris. V'loi mishum darminon miktas hayom kakuloi v'nasa kemish gilech b'yom shloshim ve'echad. You don't use as far of Masna that it's like miktas hayom kakuloi, so day 30 is over and your giluach for the first Naziris is after the 30 days. Ella, what you do limshad is the stam Naziris loy have elachavtes. Shad is that a normal Nazir is only 29 days. And that's why the Mishnah earlier states that Giluch and Lamed Yotza, not because of Mitzvah Yom Kakulai. Rabbi Pada doesn't hold it at. Rather, it's because the Nazir is only 29 days. I disagree with you, but Rav Masna, that it's because of Mitzvah Yom Kakulai, it's because the Nazir is only 29 days. I'm sorry? According to Barpada, it's only the first of the second set. Yeah. Tanan we learned. Mish Amar Harani Nazir, someone who said an 80 Nazir, and Nitma B'yom Shloishim, and he became Tamei on day 30, Soiser, a coil, it destroys everything. Frank the Gemara, Bishtam Rab Masna Nicha. According to Brasna, that makes perfect sense. The 30th day is a day of your Naziris. It's the last day of Naziris, so it's Soiser. It'll be Pada Kasha, but according to Pada, it will be sure. Let's read this again, and I want you to ponder this because there's a glaring Kasha over here. Again, Tanan Mishamar already Nazir. Nitma B'yom Shloshim. He became Tommy the 30th day, meaning part of the day he wasn't Tommy. He became Tommy in the middle of the day. Nevertheless, Soiser is a coil, it's Soiser everything. Correct the more. It makes sense because the 30th day you need. The kasha is, doesn't Rab Masna hold mitzvah yom kakuloi? So you guys are mamish gavalti because you don't need Rashi and Tosis. You mamish have all the answers. I got stuck. I need a Rashi and Tosis. Wow, it would take so much less time to prepare if I had your knowledge. Let's see what the Ran says. I keep on mixing it up with the Ran. The Ran George, by the way, is this week, so we have to give tikkun le'ilu nishmasai. I think it's the 9th day of Shvat, so he mamish helped us. Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. Zok to Gemara nitma yoim lamed soisher akol b'shemel Rab Masna pirish. Why is it clear in Geshmak according to Reb Masna? Because if he became Tomei on day 30, he became Tomei during the Naziris. So of course it's Soiser. Because you're afraid to Heilige Toises. Ulu Reb Masna minicha. Is it any better according to Reb Masna? Hamrina lo'el Reb Masna alibu tanakama the mikdas yom kakuloi. Im ken he also mikdas yoim once he fulfilled half the day with his Naziris with the Hira Nishlam yoim Nazirusai. So come to Reis. This part of the 30th day that he kept as his Naziris was enough to fulfill his Naziris. He should only lose 7 days. Why should he lose 7 days if it's after the Naziris? So we're going to soon learn that he doesn't really lose 7 days. The problem is he can't bring his carbon now because he's Tomei. So he's going to have to wait 7 days, which means he still can't take a haircut. He still can't become Tomei because remember the halachas of his Naziris don't go away until he brings his carbon. So that's why he has to wait 7 days. V'yashleimer is like you said. Ki amrin on miktas hayom kakuloi. Where do we say miktas hayom kakuloi? Hainu le'inyan taglachas v'avas karbonoisov. Meaning the imgilach b'yom shloishim v'di eved yotza im loy nitma. If he didn't become tomei and he already did the process before the end of the 30th day, the process works. I think Chaim said that the process works because we look at it as if he had the full 30 days. But if he became Tomei before the Taglachas, Bavas Karbonoisov, we don't look at it like he became Tomei on day 31, because part of day 30 is over, so the whole day 30 is over. Avadanad. Lavadai Nitma Nizroi, Besoiser Akoil, Kivan the Lahishlim, Kol Nizirusai, Vitahira. Vim timer fragt the Tosfos. Tikshler of Masna Nami Hodela Kamon. The Gemara, this same Mishnah says later on, Pahu Perka, the Tanan we learned. I don't know if I'm going to finish this, but let's start this. The Tanan we learned on Daf Tazayin. This same Mishnah continues and says, Hareini Nazir Meya. If someone specifies, I'm going to be a Nazir for 100 days, Im Nitma Yoy Meya Soiser Akol. If he becomes Tamei on the 100th day, it's still part of his Naziris, it's Soiser everything. Meya Ve'echot, but if he comes Tamei on day 101, Soiser Lamajoim. It's Soiser Lamajoim. V'amai, why should it be Soiser Akol? It should only be Soiser 7 days, meaning he has to wait now 7 days to bring his karbanos. We would answer the same thing on that seer, on that case, like we're answering here. When he became Tamei on day 30, Midai Raisa, it's Soiser. Because the Mikdas Yom Kakula, like the Ran just like the Tosha just explained, does not work if there was an actual steer of Tumah. And that will be Deraisa, because we look at it like before his Naziris was up, he became Tamei and was Soiser's Naziris. But the Sefer the Katani Nitma Yoy Meya Ve'echot, if he became Tamei on day 101, that's after his 100 days of Naziris. The Ka'amar Soiser Shloshim Yoim, where the Mishnah says there that he loses 30 days, Afal Gab Dikfar Nishlam Lidroy, even though his nether is completely finished, Have Derabanan, that's a Derabanan. So Miderabanan, we make him repeat 30 days, which is a Stam Naziris, even though he became Tamei after the full term of his Naziris is over. Why? Because day 101, which is completely the next day after his entire term expired, but it's the day that he's supposed to bring his karbonos. Gazrinan atu yom shloishim tistam naziris, where guys are atu the day 30 of a regular naziris, where it's the middle of the naziris. Shahu minatayra. I'm not sure what the tzaddik says. Shahu yom taglachas minatayra, which is yom taglachas minatayra. If you hold the mitzvah for kuloi, the hazam soiser kol shloishim yom l'mafreya midin Torah. In that case, like we just learned, the midiraisa it's soiser the entire days of naziris, and therefore, whenever on yom taglachas there's a stira midirabanan where geyser that they have to keep another 30 days of naziris. My hashta l'rab masna nichalei ben reisho ben sefer kedeprecious. Now here is gavalti. This is why Nazir is such a confusing mesechta. You probably noticed when I read the Mefarish before, I had to change it around to mean the opposite of what I've actually said. So it's so frustrating to learn because you have to have a finger in 6 different places to figure out how to read every second word, and all these little tziyonim are around. There's a whole bunch of tziyonim running around, all around Nazir. So it's very difficult. Venira, so listen to this. Venira the yom shloishim vechad nami soiser kol shloishim atu yom shloishim. So the Ran just, not the Ran, I keep on mixing it up. The Tosha just said that even day 101 triggers a disease of 30 days. What's the difference between 101 and 31? Should be the same, right? It's the day of Taglachas, the day after he completed the entire set of Naziris. So Zokter Tosha and near the Yom Shloishim ve'echad nami soiser kol shloishim atu Yom Shloishim. If your geyser on day 101, you should, in a Naziris of 100 days, you should be geyser on day 31 for Naziris of 30 days. And then these words, this is unbelievable. V'hachi mashma lekaman, and this is how it's mashma later. The Ka'amar, it says on Daf Tazayin, nitma l'lamed vecha tzoyser akol. So Rav Giveger asks on this, what do you mean v'hachi mashma lekaman? It says it black and white. Nitma l'lamed vecha tzoyser akol. So this is Gaval. So I just want to learn with you this Rav Maransberg. This is why it's so confusing. So this is what he says. Dibra maskal tan. Dibra maskal nitma yom lamed soiser kol v'nira the yom shloshim ve'echad nami soiser kol shloshim otu yom shloshim v'hachi mashma lekaman the amar nitma lelamed ve'echad soiser kol. Right, those are the words we just read. Min tevas v'hachi, from tevas v'hachi, so v'hachi mashma lekaman a tevas akol nimchak. So you take out the whole thing. V'hachi mashma lekaman the amar nitma, take that all out. V'nir bir devrayim tmuim. If you think about it, these words absolutely make no sense at all. L'chayra. He doesn't say that. Actually, he doesn't say that there. The my mashma. First of all, it doesn't say that there. And second of all, even if it would say that there, then the word mashma doesn't make sense. Im nimtza kach lahedja. So what do you mean mashma? It means mashma later. It says so beferish. So first of all, the rabbi writes, if you look up the Gemara, it doesn't say that. And if it would say that, then the word doesn't make sense either, because it's not mashma, it says so black and white. So what do you need this for? He took out v'hachi mashma lekamon and he put in the Rosh Tevis vav hey mem lamed lekamon. The ka'amar nitma lelamed soisher kol. What's the difference? What's the difference if he writes it out in long form or if he writes it in short form? This is beautiful. I think he's right for taking out the long form and writing it in short form. Which is the next thing. The Gam Devar of Suman, really, I don't understand what the Orech Mishar is doing, because he's not changing anything. All he's doing is he's writing it in short form instead of a long form. The Gam Devar Suman, the Kitzer, but moving. The Ulam, now that I thought about what the Orech Mishar writes, I realized he's a genius. And it was so smart of him to go from long form to short form. You know why? Because there was a mistake here in the print. That's what Ataka said. But it doesn't mean what it means is it could have said it could have said that this also, the same halacha that applies to day 101 applies to day 31. But the Amoritz thought he's going to make a beautiful print and he's going to write it out in long form, and instead he botched the whole thing up. What is the kavana? The command after Zayin Aleph the Amar b'Masnisin Nitma Yom Shloshim Soiser HaKoil. The Mishnah later on says if the Nazir became Tamei in day 30 at Soiser HaKoil, have a Motzah L'Meimer Nami, who Adin, it could have said, Allah would have also been in the case of Nitma Yom Shloshim V'Echad Soiser HaKoil. That's what it means to say. Have a Motzah L'Meimer Nami, even though it doesn't say that, it could have said that because that's what the Tosfos is learning, that even if you became Tamei after your whole cycle of Naziris, you only became Tamei before the actual Karbanos and the Taglachas, you still have to do another 30 days. Like Tosfos himself comments on Daf Tav Zayin and Beis, the printer thought it was going to be an Eibuchuchim, and he wrote it out in long form, but he's a Grab Amoritz, and he didn't write it good. Well, Yosaver, he thought that's what it meant. And he thought he was making things better. He should have left good enough alone, because by making it better, he actually made it worse. That's why I'm taking the length to explain this thoroughly. So the Orech Mishar made a gewaltige teretz. Write it in short form, it'll make more sense. Why will it make more sense? Because now you'll read it properly instead of reading it wrong. So this is why Nazir is such a difficult masechta, because look how much you have on a simple Vav Hey Mem Lamed. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Can you, this is pretty amazing. Can you summarize this again?
Are you trying to pull a stunt on me?
No, really.
You know the case with the rabbi who gave a drasha, but he spoke for too long. So after his drasha, someone looked and said, Rabbi, you spoke so beautifully. I have a radio show. I would really love for you to come on my show and share your really powerful message with my audience. So he said, sure, I'd love to, of course. Just tell me when. So the radio show says, no problem, I'd love to do that, but the problem is I only have 5-minute segments. and you spoke for 20 minutes. Is there any way you could condense what you said into 5 minutes without losing any flavor? Include everything. So the guy says, yeah, I think I could do that. So the guy says, why the hell didn't you?
Okay.
I thought that's what you meant now.
No, that's a good joke. Okay. But really, this is a complex issue, but it's a phenomena. You don't find this often. Do you?
Can you summarize the joke?
So what the words of Tosfos read in our print is where is Myran? V'hachi mashma lakamon. The Tosfos used the word v'hachi mashma lakamon. It seems like the Gemara says this later, ABC later. The Rabbi Ramazur has a problem with it because if you look up the Gemara later, it doesn't say that later. And if it would say that later, then the words of v'hachi mashma lakamon are still not appropriate because it wouldn't be mashma, it would be very black and white lakamon. So the Rabbi Ramazur is struggling to understand these words of Tosfos v'hachi mashma lakamon. So he said he saw the Sefer Aruch Mishar who took out v'hachi mashma lakamon and he wrote it in short form, vav hey mem lamed. And he's scratching his head like, how does that make anything better? Just by saying the same thing in short form. And then he chapped that the reason why the Aruch Mishar put it in short form is because that's what it was originally written in. And some printer thought that he would make things better and spell it out fully, but he spelled it out wrong. And he shouldn't have written the v'hachi mashma lakamon. He should have said v'havamotzi l'meimar. You can also say that not only if he becomes Tamei on day 30, it's Soisher all 30 days, but even if he becomes Tamei on day 31, it'll also be Soisher 30 days. And that makes perfect sense. And it's all because somebody wanted to make it better. Well, the Lashon of the Mishnah there is 30. Day 30, if he became Tamei on day 30, it's Soisher. So he could have also said on day 31. And the way the Ranchberg says it, he's saying not only on day 30, it's Soisher, but on day 31 as well. But it's the same thing. Okay, Gavaltics. So this is
thank you. So it's a copyist problem, a printer problem.
It's the fellow who worked for the printer that was in charge of the copy, and it probably happened because there was a little bit of extra blank margin on the line. He figured, hey, let me write out long and it'll fill the whole line. He should have just used the word processor and it would have just stretched it out. It would have worked much better. This is called artificial intelligence. Correct. I mean, you could clear what would be if he delayed his carbon for whatever reason, and it became Tamei before the carbon. So Pashas, it wouldn't be Soisher. That's right. No. Day 1, the one is not in the Torah. Day 1, the one is also Xer. Day 30. Right. But it's not. It shouldn't really be Soisher because the Nazir is over. Okay, Gavalt. So when I saw this Rav, I felt so good because you know what happened? You're running to mistake after mistake after mistake. And finally, the Rav said, you know what? I had enough. I'm spilling it out now exactly. I'm not just fluffing it over because it's really getting frustrating. Okay, Zok the Gemara Vayter. Tanan we learned. Mishamar Reni Nazir Nitma Yom Shloishim Soiser as a coil. And once again, the Tosfos explained it's Soiser as a coil because Mitzvah Yom Kakulay only works if you brought the Karbanos and you weren't Soiser. According to Bar Pada, why should it be Soiser a coil? The Nazir is over. Amalach Bar Pada can answer this and explain it. Ema Seifa. Once again, before you write me off, let's look at the Seifa. The Bar Pada was a Seifa man. Rabbi Eliezer says, Einoi Soiser Ela Shiva. Even if this occurred on day 30, it's only Soiser 7 days. And remember, the 7 days are because it's not really a stira, but you cannot bring your karbanos when you're tamei, so it delays your process for 7 days. The isal kedaita shloishim be'inan. If you hold like Rav Masna that you need a full 30 days, so how could Rabbi Eliezer possibly explain it? Nistar kulu. They should all be bottle because you didn't fulfill your full 30 days of Naziris. Dr. Gemara, Kasava Rabbi Eliezer, Miktas Hayoim Kakulai. Rabbi Eliezer would hold Miktas Hayoim Kakulai. But this is already a different type of Miktas Hayoim Kakulai. This is a Miktas Hayoim Kakulai that even if you're a soiser before the Karbonos, it would still work. Zok the Heilige Toisvis. Kasava Rabbi Eliezer, Miktas Hayoim Kakulai. Hashta Choizer l'Rab Masna u'l'Yashiv Divrei Rabbi Eliezer al Liba de Tanakam. Now we're trying to explain the words of Rab Masna, how we would understand Rabbi Eliezer. Should we look at the Dalit? A Liba de Rab Masna, it's not a Liba de Tanakama, it's a Liba de Rab Masna, because the Tanakam is not Rabbi Eliezer, right? So we're learning. Right, okay. Ki heichi de l'Rabbanan Meshech Naziris Shloshim Yom, just like the way Rab Masna is learning the Rabbanan that the Naziris period is 30 full days. Hachanami Rabbi Eliezer. You know, Rab Masna could have answered that when I said Naziris is a full 30 days, that's only according to the Tanakama. Maybe Rabbi Eliezer, who says any such Shiva, maybe he holds like Barpada. Maybe he holds Naziris is only 29 days. But the Gemara feels that's not appropriate. The Adarabba, with the Rabbanan Nishma, the Rabbi Eliezer, the B'meshech Nazir is pligi. It doesn't seem like the machloikis in this Mishnah between the Tanakam and Rabbi Eliezer is about the subject matter. It's 747. Is about the subject matter of how long Naziris is for. The Chitaimer Imkain Rabbi Eliezer Nishna Kol Shloshim Yom. So then, according to Rabbi Eliezer, why is it only 7? It should be all 30. Because Rabbi Eliezer Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi Ba'afilu Nitma Kodim Havos Karbonosav. So he has a much stronger Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi, even if the Nazir became Tamei later. Okay, I have to go by there. I didn't realize how late it was. I got carried away with the Rav Haranford. Tanan Milur, Hareni Nazir Meya Yoy. If someone says I'm a Nazir for 100 days, Nipna Yoy Meya, if he became Tamei on day 100, so he's in the middle of his Naziris, Soiser Esakoil. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer any Soiser El Shloshim Yoy. It's only Soiser 30 days. Visol Kedaitach. So Rabbi Eliezer Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi. If Rabbi Eliezer holds of this high level of Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi, that even though he was Soiser before Abba Karbonosov, it's still a completed Naziris, Nister Shiva. Then once again, it should only be Soiser 7, like in the earlier case. The Eloi Shav Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi, and if he doesn't hold of Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi, and that's why he says you need more than 7, well then Lister Kulu. Then the whole thing should be Soiser. He should have to redo all 100 days. So Mimanash, Zaktamar La'olam Lo Yamrina Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi. Really, Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hold a Mitzvah Yom Kakuloi. So then you might add, and that's why 7 days is not enough. But Oy Bezoi, why is 30 days enough? Yachi Listar Kulu. Oy Bezoi, all 100 days should be down the drain. He should have to start over again. Amar Shlokish had time with Rabbi Eliezer because if he has a special pasuk, Amar Kra Zois Toras HaNazir Biyoim Miloi Shimei Nizrei. HaTorah Amra, the Torah is telling you a chiddush about a Nazir who becomes Tamei on the day that his Naziris is finalized. HaTorah Amra Nitna Biyoim Milois Tein Loi Toras Nazir. So it's like a chiddush there. Zois Toras HaNazir. Who has to fulfill a 30 days, which is the standard Naziris? Biyoim Miloi Shimei Nizrei. Somebody who, no matter how long his Naziris was, on the last day, he became Tamei, he just gets another set of 30 days. Huge chiddush. If any time during the 100 days he was bottled, he's got to start over 100. But if he managed to the last day, he's just about to get over the finish line, we give him a break. You don't got to do the whole thing over, you only have to do 30 days. That was in the case of 30. What was the case? Ein Yisosher L'Shiva, when he did it on what day? When he was Nitma on day 30. Day 30 is only 7 days. So you wonder why doesn't he have to do the whole 30 days again? Toshus discusses it. Toshus has to write, you see the first wide line of Toshus? And for Toshus, Yeshloim the Hosam, Acher Melois Havel Bar Pada. Sure, Stam Naziris have a Chavtes Bar Pada. Dem Tema Hanech Bar Pada, Rab Masna. What about Rab Masna? The Kamal of Lazar Mishim Kakuloi, Af Benitna, Kodim of us, Konois of Yakov, Loinistel Lazar. And what's the difference? The Tzarech Lichtos Veloimar, Ta'ata Ari Bishama Haredi Nazir Meyam Shleiman. The Hashalek Lamem so it gets a little bit detailed. But I want to finish up the daf. Let's suggest that there's a machlokes tonight. It says Ad Melois Hayamim. So let's see the pasuk inside. Just call you Neder in Israel. Tarla Yavar Al Roshai. Ad Melois Hayamim Asher Yozer Lashem. So we learn from there. Ad Melois Hayamim Shoim Ani Miot Yomim Shnayim. When it says Ad Melois Hayamim till you're finished, the least amount of days in Yomim is 2. So I would think Ad Melois Hayamim only 2 days, and that's how much a Naziris is. Stam Naziris is only 2 days. Talmud Leimer Kadosh Yeh Gadol Pera Ein Gidol Sar Pachas Mishloishim. It's at least 30 days, and like we know, you learn it out of the year, out of the Gematria of the year. Near Rabbi Yosy. So Rabbi Yosy holds that the Makor of 30 days is year. Rabbi Yonasan Leimer and Tzarech, and I think there are those who take out Rabbi Yonasan and say Rabbi Yomer and Tzarech. I don't need that pasuk. I have another pasuk to learn that it's 30 days. Hareyu Omer Ad Melois Hayamim. That's what the pasuk says. Ad Melois Hayamim. I Elu Hein Yomim Shetrichen Lamalos. What period of time is counted in units of days? What period of time do you need days to fill it? Hava Omer Shloshim. That would be 30, because a month can either be chaser as being a month of 29 days, or it could be a month that's mole, which is 30 days. So what type of unit needs milui with days? The 30-day month. So that's how we know that it's 30 days. So my love, let's suggest that Rav Masna, the Amar Rabbi Yosy, Rav Masna, who says it's a full 30 days, he holds like Rabbi Yosy, because Rabbi Yosy uses the word yiyeh, which is the gematria of 30 days. Who says it's a month, and a month could be 29 or 30 days, because that's what he's referring to. At Melois Hayamim, meaning a month of a unit of time that you need days to fulfill, and maybe it can mean 29 days. So maybe the machlokes of 29 or 30 is totally from where we learn the halacha of how long Stam Nazir is. No, Kula Alma Shloshim Binin. Maybe Bar Pada is stuck with Rebbe, and Bar Pada wouldn't stim with the first shot of Yiyah. But I, who hold the 30, I could stim ganz good with Rabbi Yonasan as well. And even Ad Melois Hayamim means 30. The machlokes is merely if when it says Ad Melois Hayamim, does Ad include Ad Bechlal, the full milui. Rabbi Yosy is over Ad V'lo Ad Bechlal. Rabbi Yosy holds that you don't see from the pasuk 30 days, because when it says Ad, it means up until the milui, but not included in the milui. So you don't see 29 days. Therefore, he had to bring another limud of yiyah to tell you that Stam Nazir is 30 days. Rabbi Yonasan is over Advad Bechlal, and Rabbi Yonasan learns sure a month is either 29 or 30, but since it's Ad Melois, it means the full 30. So the way I learned Dr. Masna, I fit in very well with both the first Tana as well as the second Tana. Sai according to Rabbi Yosy, Sai according to Rabbi Yonasan, I fit in beautifully. Bar Pada, you're right. Bar Pada cannot learn this from Yiyah, because Yiyah is a gematria of 30. So Bar Pada must learn it from Ad Melois, and he holds Ad V'lo Ad Bechlal. Okay, even though we mamish only have a couple of lines left to the Mishnah, okay, everybody who left already. So let's just go to the Mishnah. I'll chaz it over tomorrow, but we're mamish in the middle of a sentence. Amar Mar, I elu heina yamim shesrichen lamalis havoyim shloishim. Who said? Ve'im Shabbos. Shabbos is 7 days. It's also a unit that you need to count days to put it together. Zok Gemara, Shabbos micha ika chaserusa. Ad Melois means it's a period that could be mole, could be chaser. Shabbos is always a fixed 7 days. Maybe it's a year you count days. So we don't count days for a year. For Rabbanan the Kirsi Amri, Shenemar, the Lublina strikes again, L'chotche Hashana, right? Chodesh Ezer, Rosh Chodeshim, L'chotche Hashana, Chadoshim, Mechashvin, L'shonim. You count months for years, V'lo Yomim L'shonim. You don't count days for years. Geweldig. Schkoyach.